watching me at all, or if you've seen me on The Sausage Factory or Obnoxious and Anonymous, you're probably well aware that I've looked overseas to fill my horror needs. This isn't because I dislike American films, it's because America right now is in a slump. And while I'd prefer to not have to dig so deep to find those exciting new titles, I do. Thing is, not everything I see that's foreign is good. In fact, I'd say that the ratio is actually not great. I do have one advantage, which is that by the time something gets to my ears, it's already gone through a bunch of viewers. So some of the very bad titles have already been removed from the conversation before it ever reaches me. 2018's Rasuk, an Indonesian horror film from director Ubay has been on my radar for quite a long time, but finding a good copy of the film with English subs was a little daunting for a while. Fortunately, it's out there, and I'm happy to report that although the film has certain barriers to the English language American audience, it does live up to its reputation. Let's start with that title. Rasuk does not adequately translate into an English word very succinctly. The direct meaning would be beam, but inside the society it's understood that one of the meanings of the word is possession, when a spirit takes over a human body. Now there's a lot of cultural differences to even what possession means, but it's close enough that an American who's been bred on The Exorcist or Evil Dead will understand. And The Evil Dead is a big influence on this movie, but it does have a different set of priorities. Stop me if you think you've heard this story before. A bunch of college-aged kids go to a cabin in the woods where they face an intrusion from a spirit from beyond, ultimately possessing one of the friends and turning them violently on the group. Yes, Evil Dead. But bear with me. Unlike its American counterpart, however, Rasuk has a different idea about what possession could mean thematically. And at the beginning of each of my videos, there's my definition of horror. It speaks of the dark emotions that a genre film will pull out of the viewer as the defining feature of a horror film. This film expands that meaning a little bit because it chooses to include resentment as the core emotion. And that is an interesting new place for the horror genre, because while we're used to fear and terror and disgust and gallows humor, all of which I would say at one point or another informed the Evil Dead films that this film owes so much to, at least visually, resentment is a very different emotion. And there's a bunch of different resentments between the characters in this film. If anything, those elements don't seem to come together until the third act, but when they do very satisfyingly. Now, I don't want to spoil anything about the movie. You should really search it out and see the film. What I'll say is it's very competently made. It has a meaning. And it does something with a wraparound sequence at the beginning and end of the film that I thought was not just clever, but outstanding. Now, culturally, film is different country to country. And although Hollywood has had a massive effect on the entire world, not every culture presents film the same way. The staginess of certain dialogue, the over-explanatory nature of certain passages, the use of exposition, and the leisurely pace of scenes that in America would not even be allowed to be on screen at all, are all very different to the Western viewer. Rasuk is a film that you need to have some patience with, but that patience is rewarded. Now, when I say rewarded, let me be clear. I've mentioned Evil Dead quite a few times here. This film is not a bloodbath, although at one point a chainsaw does get revved up. Instead, what we get is a slow burn that lets us learn these characters, their plight, their interactions, and their conflicts. And those small conflicts end up to be the basis of the larger conflict. I was impressed by how this film controlled itself to tell a very mannered, measured story. And the threat is very real, but it's not necessarily a physical threat. This is not Jason Voorhees in the woods. This is more about what it means to let go of the indignities of the past, to let go of your best memories so that you may make new ones. Now, Rasuk is not a film you're going to find easily, but it is well worth the search. And if you're looking for something that's different from what we're getting domestically, here's another title to add to your list. I'd also say that Ubay Fox has a hell of a career in front of him inside the genre if he chooses to have it. The Indonesian horror scene is absolutely bursting at the seams at the moment. Now, there are a lot of films in the scene that are not worth your time, but those that are bringing a completely different flavor to what is too often kind of a fast food culture in America. This isn't a gourmet meal by any means, but it feels like hearty home cooking, and a pleasant change of pace from the normal cuisine. I would say that Rasuk is a solid B-. It's certainly not going to be for all tastes, and it is, again, culturally different than what we're used to in America. But this is a great place to start for Indonesian horror.